the losses continue to pile up for the Cincinnati Bengals despite a historic season offensively from Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and in the Cincinnati Bengals offense. And the crazy part is this offense has some deficiencies too. Like this offense isn't as clean cut. Like when you look at the numbers, you would think, man, this is one of the most explosive offenses in football. And technically, statistically, it is. But there's a lot of glaring issues. We'll get to the O-line here shortly, and maybe I'm overblowing that, but that's just how many problems are on this team that it's like, how far down on the list do we, before we even get to that. But Jake, you guys were about to go into the only 6 draft picks coming up. I haven't even processed that. There's a lot of holes on this team. This team isn't traditionally one that is super aggressive in free agency. And you already traded a draft, but you only have 6 draft picks coming up with this draft to plug a lot of holes and deficiencies. And there's a lot of trust that has been lost between the front office and the fans over the last couple of years now. A lot of positional needs, Jake, take over from here, but those positional needs are what, and how do they address all of these through free agency and the draft when you have limited draft picks and a team that traditionally isn't super aggressive free agent-wise?
Yeah, I mean, you guys feel free to let me know what I'm missing, but corner,
okay,
at least one, probably more than one. You need safeties, probably plural.
Okay.
You need interior D-line. You need linebackers. You need edge rushers. You need 2 starting guards. You need a backup running back. If T. Higgins leaves, you need a wide receiver too. If T. Higgins doesn't leave, you need another edge rusher because that means you are probably letting Trey go.
Yep.
You need a running back too because Zach Moss is hurt.
Kicker.
We got a punter.
We got a punter.
We
do have a really good punter.
We have a really good punter.
And he has been showcased this season. So shout out to my guy Rico.
That's right. And Gesicki's a free agent. Eric All, depending on his recovery, you could need a tight end.
Oh, I forgot we do need a tight end.
Right. Ted Karras, do you believe in Matt Lee to take over for him? He's winding down on his contract. We're talking about a multi-year rebuild here. We're going to have to look into the future because some of these guys aren't going to be as good when we're competitive again in a year or two. Orlando Brown, 2 years left on his contract, was playing through an injury yesterday. Certainly didn't look great. Going to need him to get healthy before we can make a final decision on him, but adding left tackle to that list would not be nice. Out of the team, there's 22 starters on offense and defense. I think we need 18 positions.
Yeah.
It's an insane spot for the Bengals to be in this year. They're going to be able to get close to $100 million in cap if they make the cuts that I think they should make. That's Kappa, that's Hubbard, that's Geno Stone, that's Sheldon Rankins. You can get a lot of money off these books, and you can overhaul the defense. Personally, right now, looking at the Bengals roster makeup and how this offseason outlook is trending, I would say you trade Trey Hendrickson to the NFC, put that money into T. Higgins, use those draft picks on an aging edge rusher to rebuild the defense from scratch. Tear it down to the studs. When you have 3 guys that are giving you anything worth paying on the entire team, I think at some point you just say, screw it. We're going to pay those guys. Who else are you paying at this point? I don't watch the Bengals and see anyone on the team that deserves an extension other than Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. Not a single player. Trey Hendrickson's having the best season of his career, the best edge rushing season in the NFL, and it's not moving the needle for this defense
at all.
So what do you want next year? You want him to get 30 sacks? Maybe then we won't be the worst pass rushing team in football.
28th.
Like, I think you trade him to a team in the NFC. I don't want to play him. Trade him to the NFC. Get a second or third rounder. Hell, if the Lions win the Super Bowl, maybe you get 32. Give him a third and Hendrickson for 32 or something like that. I think you can get some serious value after this season for Trey Hendrickson. And I think even with the injury history for T. Higgins, I would seriously contemplate extending him because I don't watch this Bengals team and see anywhere else the money should go.
Yeah, Mr. Mo asked in the chat, why would you pay T. Higgins? You only sign a second wide receiver if it's a luxury. You pay T. Higgins because if you don't have an offense, then what the hell is this team?
Also, if T goes, you're paying another wide receiver.
Yeah.
We've also seen, even without the offensive line, T and Jamar and Joe go to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like that offense works. We know that it works with just those guys. So I'm okay with signing T. Higgins because, like you said, there's no one else on this team that deserves to be extended. I sent that tweet at you guys. Dax Hill's 5th-year contract.
Yeah.
It's what, $16 million, and Jesse Bates $14 million. I'm not going to bring that up, but I'm just saying, like, you're going to have to start making some tough choices. Do you really want to keep Dax Hill around? injury history, the out of position, and all the stuff that we've done up to this point on this defense has made it really, really tough now to make those tough decisions. I think that trading Trey Hendrickson is top of the list. I think you do tear it down to the studs, because the only way that you're going to be able to build something is by having a guy to build around, and we don't have a guy to build around, period. Trey Hendrickson is too old, and he's wanted out here now over the summer, to where you can't feel comfortable unless you like gave him a massive contract, which I just don't see them doing because they don't pay guys over 30. So I'm with you. I think you get as much draft capital as possible, and you try to land a guy that you can build a defense around, and you go from there. Because you know, if you have Joe, if you have Jamar, and you have T, that offense is going to be a top 10 offense, because that's what it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
no.
I see. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, like, Mr. Mo, was it, that said, you know, the T. Higgins would be like a luxury thing? Like, I think a lot of times in football, and we do this in sports, where we put like certain rules on things. Like, I think you have to make decisions that are best for your team versus, well, teams don't do that. Teams don't. If you have this many holes, you don't pay T. Higgins. But I agree with everything you guys are saying. At a certain point, you know, the identity of this team is Joe Burrow, yes. But at the same time, it's like, if that's what you have to lean into that. Because you can't just assume that whoever you go get in the draft or in free agency is going to totally turn it around. You know what you have. Like, it's not a tryout. Hey, let's bring T here and hope that it works. You know that it works. Even with the deficiencies now, worst defense in the league, and you still have a chance to win football games. If this defense just improves marginally, just slightly, they're coming out on top of at least 2 of these games that they've lost thus far, and it's a completely different type of season at this point. This team has so many holes to fill, yes, but because of Joe Burrow and this offense, it closes the gap on a lot of the issues that you're having right now. And just a slightly better defense, you've picked up an extra couple wins throughout the season to this point, and it's a completely different vibe at this point. So you guys aren't even talking about rehauling it to the point to where you got a top 10 defense. It's just, don't be as pathetically, putridly bad as what you are right now. I get what he's saying. That's a luxury thing, but I agree with you guys. You have to bring T back at this point. I thought as more deficiencies popped up, that was working against bringing him back. If anything, it's only highlighting why you need to bring him back, because at some point you have to know what you have. You know what you have in T. You don't know what you have anywhere else, even if you do bring in new players next year.
100%. And if you let T walk, you're then tying an arm behind your back and saying we're either using our first or second round pick on a wide receiver, or paying decent money in free agency for a wide receiver. I think regardless of who the head coach or OC is, you need 2 wide receivers in an NFL offense. And for people in the chat to say people don't extend to 2 wide receivers, I would argue that almost every team with 2 elite wide receivers in recent memory has extended them both. Yeah. I mean, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, both massive paydays. There's tons of holes in Miami. They paid Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Anyone with 2 top 15 wide receivers has been keeping them. It's just been what's happening, with the exception of Kansas City, and that's because they found a hack to the salary cap, and it's have a generational receiver play tight end, but you don't have to pay him any money.
In hypothetical land, then yeah, I'd trade T. Higgins, and I'd trust the coaching staff and the front office to be able to find a suitable replacement. In a hypothetical world, that's what I would do. But unfortunately, we don't have that. We don't have guys that can draft. We don't have guys I can trust to find a replacement. So until I have those guys, I'm going to say keep the good guys that we have, and we'll see what we can do then. Trey Hendrickson, I mean, being the president of Moron Island isn't that you don't win any prizes for that. He's a very good defensive player that people will want and will utilize on their team. He is just on an island by himself right now with the talent that's around him. It doesn't make any sense to keep him back there if the rest of that entire squad is going to be as bad as they've been. It just doesn't make sense to me. If I can get 2 draft picks from Trey Hendrickson, I'll take it.
Being the president of Moron Island. I like that. Another good one. You're on fire today,
Thank
Elliot.
you. Thank you.